escaped the Minecraft ocean. But how did I get trapped in the ocean? My friend Korean told me he built the hardest prison ever made, and it was all underwater. And when I got on, we were trapped inside a bedrock cage, and we were inside a room made completely out of barrier blocks, which were unbreakable, invisible blocks. And in the middle of the room was the exit tunnel, and right behind it was the other side of the tunnel, which led to our freedom. So that means if we got to the tunnel in the middle of this room, we would be able to swim to the other tunnel and escape. But our first problem was we were stuck in a bedrock box. I tried to check if the barrier blocks next to us had any gaps in it to see if I could go through it, but there was nothing. Then I went in F5 mode to see what was around me, and I found an ice block right above me. But I found something even more important. It was a sheep. I named the sheep Sheldon, and Sheldon was going to be our motivation to escape. All I want in life is to meet up with Sheldon. So I got straight to work. So right now, all we have to work with is this ice block, and we have to break this ice block to make water to escape this 1x1 hole. But the only way for ice to make water is if there's a block underneath it. So we have to find a block and place it underneath this ice. But there's literally nothing in this room. So I had to think of another way for us to get out. So then I got the idea to check if any of these bedrock blocks were fake blocks. And when I did, I realized the block underneath me was a fake piece of bedrock. And when I broke it, it was actually just a retextured map. And I was actually standing on a chest. And the only thing inside was a glass bottle. But a glass bottle wouldn't help me because I needed to place a block underneath the ice. And then I realized we were literally standing on top of a block. So I broke the chest, and I placed the chest underneath the ice, and then I broke the ice. And all the water flowed into the hole. And then I swam out. So now we were free to swim inside the exit. So I grabbed the chest and went to the exit. But when I went inside the exit tunnel, it literally seemed like it never ended. And if I went down, I was afraid that I would just drown. So before I went in, I decided to look around to see if there was anything else in the room. And I'm glad I did, because when I went behind the tunnel, I found a brewing stand. And the brewing stand was already charged. And I also had a glass bottle. So this meant that we had to craft a potion of water breathing. And with that potion, we would be able to swim to our freedom and not drown. And the items we would need for a water breathing potion is a pufferfish and a nether wart. And right away, I found a pufferfish that was right next to the tunnel. So I took it, and now all I needed was a nether wart. So I started to look around the room to see if there was anything hidden. And I found nothing. And I was getting really discouraged because I wanted to make it to Sheldon. He was all alone. So I kept looking around for a nether wart, and then I had the idea to check inside the tunnel. And when I did, I found out that there was an air pocket, and inside was a nether wart. So I grabbed the nether wart and swam back up. And then I put my nether wart in the brewing stand and made my water bottle into an awkward potion. Then I put my pufferfish inside, and the pufferfish turned the awkward potion into a potion of water breathing. So I grabbed the water breathing potion and drank it, and then swam to the bottom of the tunnel. And I'm glad we got the water breathing potion because this tunnel was extremely long and we would not have survived without the potion. And when we got to the bottom of the tunnel, it took us to a brand new room. And on the other side of the room was a sign that said this way. And when I went to it, on the other side was a sign that said freedom is up. And right behind it was a staircase. But there was bedrock covering the way to the staircase. And we had to somehow find a way to make it past a 1-block hole. So we had to look around in the main room to find a way to get through that hole. And right away, I found out what we had to do. There was an ender pearl right in the front of the room. And if we get this ender pearl, we're going to be able to just throw it and get to the staircase. But the problem was the ender pearl was in a hole that was 2 blocks deep. So if we broke it, we wouldn't be able to pick it up. So we had to look around the room to find an item that could help us pick up the ender pearl. And the first thing I saw was this piston and a netherite block. And behind it was a chest. But the chest was surrounded by barrier blocks. So there was no way I could open it. And right next to it was a piece of redstone. So all we had to do was find a way to power this redstone to move the piston for us to be able to access that chest. And we already had the solution to solve this. We already had a power source, and that was our trap chest from before. So all we had to do was just place it and open the chest, and then quickly open the other chest. And first try, we were able to get it. And inside the chest was 4 iron ingots. So I grabbed the 4 iron, but I had no idea what 4 iron was supposed to do to get us that ender pearl. So I decided to check the other 2 rooms. And in the first room was a giant lava room with the villager in the middle. And the villager was trading 4 end rods for 3 sticks. But I had no idea where we were supposed to get end rods from, and I had no idea why we needed sticks. All I knew is that we had to get through this 1x1 hole to get to the staircase. And the way to do that is to get that ender pearl. So I went back into the room and started looking around, and right above me was a chest that said there was a blaze rod inside. And that's when I remembered to craft the end rod, you need a blaze rod and a popped chorus fruit. So I tried to get the chest, but the thing was, it was covered by barrier blocks. And I checked to see if there was any holes in the barrier blocks, but there wasn't. And then I realized what we had to do. We had to swim up the lava to access that chest. But the thing was, we were nowhere near getting a fire resistance potion. All we had was a glass bottle. So that means we had to make something else to get fire resistance, but I had no idea what. Then I went to the last room, and it was literally just a hole. And on the other side of this hole was a chest. And to get to that platform with the chest, we needed to place 4 blocks. And then we would be able to parkour to the other side. So I decided to check in the main room to see blocks that we could collect. And the first block I saw was a crafting table. So I got the crafting table, and underneath was a hopper. And inside the hopper was a popped chorus fruit, which was was one half of what we needed to make end rods. And the other half to make the end rods were right above us. So all we have to do now is swim up the lava and get the blaze rod to trade with the villager. So first I went back to get the chest. And with the chest, we would have 2 out of the 4 blocks we needed to get to the other side of the hole. And when I was looking for another block, I went to the ender pearl and I made a huge mistake. I broke the ender pearl from the item frame. And as I did that, I realized that items on the ground despawn after 5 minutes. So we now had 5 minutes to somehow get this ender pearl or it would despawn and be gone forever. And I started to panic. And while I was panicking, I noticed a sign that just said weirdly empty. And it was just a space in between these 2 rooms. And Korea never just leaves things weirdly empty. So that means there was probably something right next to us, but I couldn't see what. And with the time ticking, I was extremely nervous and I had no idea what I was supposed to be looking for. And then at the corner of my eye, I noticed a hopper on top of the room with the ender pearl. And inside was 2 string. And when I got the 2 string, I realized what we had to do. We had to make a fishing rod. And with the fishing rod, we would be able to get the ender pearl that was stuck inside the hole. And after I got that ender pearl, we would be able to go to the staircase and escape to our freedom. So now all that was stopping us from getting to our freedom was reaching that chest. And the time kept ticking and ticking, and I kept panicking. But then I thought of the reason why I was doing this. Sheldon the sheep. He was all alone in the ocean without us. All that I wanted was to meet up with our beloved Sheldon, and I was not gonna let anything stop us from meeting him. So I calmed myself down and started to use my brain. And my brain was now on. And I noticed that there was 2 mushrooms in the room, and Korean never just leaves random items. So these mushrooms had to have been important. And as I kept looking around, I noticed in front of the water path was another hopper, and inside was an allium. So now I had a red mushroom, a brown mushroom, and an allium. And then I realized what these items were for. If you craft all these 3 items and a mushroom bowl, you can get a suspicious stew with fire resistance. And with fire resistance, we could swim to the blaze rod and trade with that villager and then make a fishing rod and then get that ender pearl. But we only had 2 minutes before the ender pearl despawned, so we had to act quick. And the first step was to get to that chest. So I went to the crafting table and tried to think what we could craft. We had to somehow make at least 2 blocks with these 4 pieces of iron. And I couldn't find any crafting recipe that was in the crafting table. But then I had an idea. If I made one of our iron ingots into iron nuggets, we would get a new crafting recipe, which was chains. And we would be able to craft 3 of them. So with these chains, I would be able to build to the chest and get whatever was inside. So I placed down all the chains and my crafting table at the end, and then I parkoured over to the chest. And inside was the bowl that we needed. So then I used the crafting table to craft a suspicious stew. And I also grabbed the chest. And then I parkoured back to the room with the lava. And with only a minute left, I built up using the chest and drank the suspicious stew and then swam up. And the fire resistance only lasts for 5 seconds, so it was super risky, but I spammed right click and got the blaze rod. Then I ran to the water in the beginning of the room and I lived with barely any hearts left. And with only 20 seconds left, I ran to the crafting table to craft the 4 end rods. And then I ran to the villager and traded the 4 end rods for the 3 sticks. And then went back to the crafting table to make a fishing rod. And with literally 10 seconds left, I ran to the ender pearl and fishing rodded it, and I was able to pick it up. And then I went to the hole, and I've never been so happy to see a hole. Freedom was right in front of me. And all I could think of when I was looking at this hole was Sheldon. All of this would have been worth it. So I threw my ender pearl through the hole, and at the end of the staircase was a tunnel that we saw from the beginning. And I swam up it, but when I got to the top of the water, the worst thing happened. Korean was waiting, flying next to Sheldon in full netherite armor. And he told me to call him. Back up from Sheldon the sheep.
Ohms, I'm hungry.
What do you mean? No, Sheldon! Korean did the unimaginable. He killed Sheldon and then ate his meat in front of us. But the war between me and Korean is not over. We have been racing to 500,000 subscribers for months, and Korean has always been in the lead. But we're catching up, and we are so close to beating him. So if you enjoy these videos, subscribe.